everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also on BrightShine. Live right here in the city of Memphis, in the county sheriff, in the state of Tennessee. Today's date, early Monday morning, August the 5th, 2019. The time 5:08 a.m. First, I thank all my family support for your continued current support. This is part 2 of the same video, and like I said, it'll be dated with today's date, which is August the 5th, 2019. Part 2. When it comes to the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 through 25, Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 through 23, Luke chapter 1, verse 1 through 80, and Luke chapter 2, verse 1 through 52, the Lord's Supper, Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 through 29, Mark chapter 14, verses 22 through 25, Luke chapter 22, verses 15 through 22, the Lord's Prayer, Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 13, Luke chapter 11, verses 2 through 4, the Beatitudes, Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7, Luke chapter 6, verses 20 through 49, John the Baptist, Matthew chapter 3, verse 1 through 17, emphasize verses 11 through 17, Mark chapter 1, verse 1 through 11, emphasize verses 7 through 11, Luke chapter 3, verse 1 through 22, emphasize verses 16 through 22, John chapter 1, verse 15 through 34, emphasize verses 26 through 34. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, teaching in the synagogue, Matthew chapter 4, verse 23, Mark chapter 1, verse 21, Luke chapter 4, verse 15, and John chapter 6, verse 59. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, begins the ministry, Matthew chapter 4, verses 12 through 25, emphasize verses 23 through 25, Mark chapter 1, verses 14 through 45, emphasize verse 14 and 39 through 45. Luke chapter 4, verses 14 through 44, emphasize verses 15, 43, and 44. John chapter 1, verses 35 to 51. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, chose 12 disciples. Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 through 42. Mark chapter 3, verses 13 to 35. Luke chapter 6, verses 13 through 49. And John chapter 6. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, established the one church. The one church. Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 through 19. Matthew chapter 18, verses 1 to Matthew chapter 8, verses 15 through 20. And our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ gives us Apostle Commission. Matthew chapter 28, verses 16 through 20. Mark chapter 20. Mark chapter 16, verses 14 through 20. Luke chapter 24, verses 44 through 49. And John chapter 21. The death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Matthew chapter 26, verses 1 through 75. Matthew chapter 27, verses 1 through 16, emphasize verse 50. Joseph of Arimathea, a disciple of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God, took his body down from the cross. And also verses 57 through 6. Matthew chapter 28, verses 1 through 20, emphasize verses 16 through 20. Mark chapter 14, verses 1 through 72. Mark chapter 15, verses 1 through 47, emphasize verse 30, 37. Mark chapter 14, verse 1 through 72. Mark chapter 15, verse 1 through 47, emphasize verse 30, 37. Joseph of Arimathea, a disciple of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, took his body out from the cross. Luke chapter 22, verse 1 through 71. Luke chapter 23, verse 1 through 56, emphasize verse 46. John chapter 17, verses 1 through 26, and John chapter 18, verse 1 through 40, John chapter 19, verse 1 through 42, and emphasize verse 30. Joseph of Arimathea, a disciple of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son. He took his body down from the cross. And also verses 38 through 42, John chapter 20, verses 1 through 31, and John chapter 21, verses 1 through 25. And our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son, God gives us Apostle Commission. Matthew chapter 28, verses 16 through 20. And Mark chapter 16, verses 14 through 20. Luke chapter 24, verses 44 through 49. And John chapter 21. attention to these verses. Pay attention to these verses, because these are the verses that God told the children of Israel, told everybody He does not allow devil worship. So pay attention to these verses. Also pay attention to these verses. God does not allow devil worship. Pay attention to these verses. continue to go to the book of Matthew, chapters 3 and 4, and of course read the Beatitudes. Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7. Of course, we read Beatitudes. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ teaching. And then we go to the book of Luke, the Beatitudes, and Luke chapter 6, verses 20 through 49. Now, we read Matthew chapter 13, verses 1 through 58. And Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 through 19. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ of God established the one church. And that one church is the only church. It's the only church. All these other man-made religious groups. It's devil worship. It's devil worship. In Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 20, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ established one church. That one church is the only church. In Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 46. In Matthew chapter 28, verses 16 through 20. And we also Mark, the book of Mark chapter 4, verses 1 through 32, and Mark chapter 13, verse 1 through 37. Then go to the book of Acts. We read chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 21. Acts chapter 21 and 22. And 26. Then we continue to stay in the book of James, and that includes the book of Hebrews also. The book of Hebrews, the book of James, 1st and 2nd Peter. First, 2nd, and 3rd John. The book of Jude and the book of Revelation. Now, then we're going back to the Old Testament. Now, for example, we in the Old Testament, one verse, for example, God does not allow worshiping other gods as what you call a god. Now, God said over in Exodus chapter 22, verse 20, he that sacrificeth unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. Don't allow it. Exodus chapter 23, verse 24. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them. nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. And let me read verse 23 right before that though. Because see, this is the point we've been making. The same chapter. Verse 23. For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images. See, this is the point. God had told you repeatedly, there's only one God. See, God told them people, told the children of Israel, told everybody, I'm the only God. See, it wasn't just the children of Israel who were being taught to worship God, but God said He's going to destroy these people because you didn't listen to what I told you. You defied me. You disobeyed me. You started making all these idols and making graven images. See, when you go back to the book of Genesis, people been living on the earth and they were worshiping God. The devil, deceived of. See, a lot of people been deceived by the devil. The devil deceived a lot of people. That's what that means. These people were deceived. And God said, I'm going to destroy you. Now, what's some more verse? Exodus chapter 30. We're going to Exodus chapter 30. Now, we just read, what was that? That was Exodus chapter 22. We just read the book of Exodus. Chapter 22. We read verse 24, but we also read verse 23. So now let's go to Exodus. Well, we read Exodus 23, excuse me. We read Exodus chapter 23, verses 23 and 24. And so let's go read Exodus 30. Okay, let me see here. Let me go 32. Okay, let's go over to the book of Exodus, chapter 14. The book of Exodus, chapter 14. Okay. The book of Exodus, chapter 34, excuse me. The book of Exodus chapter 34. The book of Exodus chapter 34. And I'm going to start reading. I'm going to start reading it in verse number 10. Again, that's Exodus chapter 34. Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 34. And I'm going to start reading in verse number, I'm going to start reading in verse number 10. And it said, and he said, behold, I make a covenant before all thy people. I will do marvels, such as have not been done in all the earth, not in any nation, and in all the people among which thou shalt see the work of the Lord, for it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Pay attention. Here we go. Observe thou that which I command thee this day. Behold, I drive out before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, Afro-Asiatic, and the Hittite. The Hittite is Indo-European. And the Perizzite. Now the Perizzite is one of those ancient people. And the Hittite and the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, whether thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other God. For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods. And one call thee, and thou eat of their sacrifice, and thou take of their daughters unto thy son, and their daughters go a whoring after their gods, and make thy son go a whoring after their gods. Thou shalt make thee no molten gods. See, devil worship. God is telling you he does not allow devil worship. He does not allow devil worship. Okay. Leviticus chapter 17. Now over here in Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, chapter 18. Leviticus chapter 18. And it says in verse 21, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord the God. I am the Lord. God does not allow devil worship. Chapter 19, Leviticus chapter 19, verse number 4. Turn ye not unto idols, nor make to yourself molten gods. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus chapter 20. Leviticus chapter 20, verses 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it reads, Again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the stranger that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stone, and I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man, when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man, and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go and horn after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. Now, Numbers chapter 25. Pay close attention. The Numbers chapter 25, verse 1 through 5. Pay attention. Again, that's Numbers chapter 25, verses 1 through 5. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifice of their gods, and the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, Take all the heads of the people, and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one of his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brother Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And what time is it? Well, see, do the one. Well, we're gonna start right there. And we know we're gonna come back. But we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue to not accept, not approve, and not allow devil worship. Devil worship. Don't allow it. See, God gave you instruction. God gave man instruction to not accept, not approve, and not allow devil worship. See, the old world secret societies, the sorority and fraternity, them old world secret societies, the sorority and fraternity, the street organization, street gang. See, they go back into the Old Testament and see there are people who claim they got information from these ancient people. The Old Testament tell you that God did not allow, God didn't accept, didn't approve, did not allow defiance and disobedience. He didn't allow. He didn't allow. It's wrong. It's wrong. There's no such thing worse than the devil. No such thing. And before we end, we're going to go to the New Testament. We're going to go to the New Testament. Now, that's what I want to make sure. Chapter 25, Matthew chapter 25. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, he shall separate them one from another, as a sheep divided his sheep, as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come ye, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Now let me move down a little bit. Verse 41. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. There's no such thing as devil worship. No such thing as devil worship. Webster Sturdy New International Dictionary, the complete and total definition meaning of the word gang, the act, manner, or means of going. That stupid sorority and that stupid fraternity. This is sister. And this is brother. Oxford English Dictionary, the complete total definition and meaning of the word gang, action or mode of going way past a set of things or person. That stupid sorority and that stupid fraternity. these are just a few of the free logo design websites you can go to make anti-gang logos. Now, I'm going to get ready to end today's video. Again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, in the state of Tennessee. And thank all my family, my support people, continue to support. And continue to do your study on the first century. Because the so-called wannabe devil worship, they start their little stuff, you know, Saint Ignatius of Antioch and all them, you know, Tertullian and all them. And don't forget that the word Christian, that is the occult. That's devil worship. Christian, that's the occult. It's devil worship. It's devil worship. Continue to do your research on the first century. And don't forget there's only one church. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ established one church. That one church is the only church. And the church being persecuted by people who are deceived by the devil, and they are persecuting the church. We're going to go to the United Nations, going to make it official. There's only one church, always have been, always will be. There's only one church. And all these man-made religious groups and organizations, we're going to be punished. We're going to be punished. We're going to be punished. And ain't no such thing as the East Coast being no gang based and all that. You can run up and down the East Coast all you want. And keep some hand grenades, you know, get plenty of automatic rifles. Up there in Chicago, get plenty of automatic rifles. You know, because retaliate on the East Coast, on the Bloods and the Crips. Retaliate. Till next time, take care of yourself. Wish each and every one of you very best.